Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Mount & Blade Bannerlord, specifically the Realm of Thrones mod for it, and we're going to be going through the best companions in the game. Now I've gone through and recorded all the stats for what I could tell were the best recruitable companions in the game, and I've compared them against each other to make a series of lists. And I'm planning on doing 4 of these for your 10 best companions that you can recruit. This one being the one for the best warriors, then I'm going to do the best companions if you want them to act as traders, and then the best ones if you want them to act as governors, and the best ones if you want them to act as commanders or, generals of your war party. So I figured it would be a little bit better to break them down into categories such as that. So let's just dive on in and start off with number 10. And so at number 10, we've got Sir GARLAN the Gallant. And now this is obviously a pretty cool, interesting one. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like Garland Tyrell from the books, because obviously he doesn't show up in the show, but he exists and obviously would be a very interesting companion to get. It doesn't say that, but we do have Sir GARLAN the Gallant. So pros about this one: as a warrior, obviously comes with good weapons and armor, as you can see on him. He's only 30, so yes, he's on the slightly older end of young in the game, but still plenty of years for him to be very, very useful as a warrior. Outside of that, stats on this guy, we've got his highest combat skill is 200, and both his one-handed and two-handed fall under that, as well as pole arms. But other combat skills we could see, he's got bow of 120, crossbow of 80, he's got 160 for athletics, 100 for throwing, and 180 for cavalry. So obviously he's extremely good combat-wise. But outside of that, so those being the main things to worry about when you're doing or when you're considering someone as a warrior. The other one after that being tactics, which I consider to be pretty dang important. And he has a level 50 in tactics, which isn't amazing, but it's also pretty dang good considering how bad some other people's is. Nothing too terrible there. Outside of that, he's got some secondary stuff that's good, makes him good as other roles, and so for that we can see he's got 100 in leadership and 100 in steward as well. So quite a good companion to choose for a warrior, but that's Sir GARLAN the Gallant, who takes the number 10 spot on this list. At number 9, we've got another one who I'm not sure if I recognize for sure from the books, but we have Nina Vernier, and this one is another one that is just fantastic as a warrior. If you want companions specifically that are great at fighting, Nina Vernier is a great one. So you can see we've got some positive stats up here: generous, honorable, and we have honor 2 for her, and fearless 2, as well as merciful there. So she's got great stats. She's only 21, which is great considering that's nice and young and her stats are already this good. And so outside of that, we've obviously got good weapons and armor on her from the start. Other than that, stat-wise, her highest combat stats are at 200, and those are polearm and one-handed. But we, of course, have a riding of 160, two-handed of 100, so both of those are pretty dang good as well. She's got a trade skill of 50, steward skill of 80, charm of 40, tactics of 60, and leadership of 100. So quite good stats across the board, but obviously on this list what most matters is how good of a warrior she is, and her stats make her take the number 9 spot on this list. So that's Nina Vernier. Next up at number 8, we have Sandra the Great, and this one we can see some stats up top. We got generosity 2, so she's munificent, and we've got calculating 2, so she's cerebral, but she's also cautious, so that's not the best thing. She is only 25, so plenty young there. She's from Dorne, and stat-wise, again, pretty dang solid. So her highest combat stat is one-handed, which is at 200, but she's also got 150 in bow, 120 on athletics, and various other stats of hers are also decent enough. But so that being said, she makes a pretty good infantry unit or archer or mounted infantry or a mounted archer, so she's good at quite a lot of stuff and makes an excellent warrior. Outside of that, for her stats, she's got level 80 in trade, level 80 in steward, level 40 in charm, level 120 in tactics, and level 120 in leadership. So quite good across the board, but excellent as a warrior, so she takes the number 8 spot for the best warrior companions in the game. At number 7, we've got BRONN of the Blackwater, and really, if you're going to call him BRONN of the Blackwater, it should be Sir BRONN of the Blackwater, but we'll leave it as it is. He is 38, so getting a little bit on the older side, which isn't great. Trait-wise, we've got close-fisted, devious, daring, cruel, and calculating, which I think is pretty good considering what we've seen of BRONN in the books and the show. Stat-wise, though, pretty solid across the board. Highest combat skill is 230, and you can see that that is in one-handed, but he's got other combat stats that are all quite good. Throwing of 60, riding of 130, polearm of 200, bow of 120, crossbow of 140, and two-handed of 180, so all of those are quite good. Other stats of his are trade of 30, steward of 50, charm of of 80, tactics of 50, and leadership of 50. So nothing too terribly low there. Only problem with Bronn starting off is he doesn't come with very good armor right off the bat, so you will have to equip him at the beginning, otherwise he is a little easy to kill. But yes, that is Bronn of the Blackwater, who takes the number 7 spot for the best warrior companions in the mod. At number 6, we have HODOR, and he is 28 years old, and he's from the north. Obviously, we know who HODOR is if we've read the books or watched the show. He has some traits to talk about. We've got Munificent, because he's got Generosity 2, Cautious, because, you know, he's got Valor -1, Merciful, and Hot-Headed. So I assume that's just because of his inability to think all that good in the show. As for his stats, again, pretty dang solid on the whole. We've got his highest ones being at level 260, and those are polearm and two-handed, but then 250 for one-handed, 60 for riding, 120 for throwing, 150 for athletics, 70 for bow, and 70 for crossbow. Obviously, none of those are bad. So he makes an incredible warrior, which, you know, checks out considering he's part giant. As for his other stats, he's actually not as bad as you would think. He's got a trait of 40, steward of 20, charm of 20, tactics of 20, and leadership of 40. So again, going to be the best at being a warrior, but you could use him for other stuff as well. At number 5, we've got Brienne of Tarth, and you can see for her traits, we've got honorable 2, valor 2, so she's fearless, and impulsive, so that's a negative thing. She is 28 years old, so still young enough to be quite useful for a long time, but she's getting up there. As for her equipment, it's pretty good starting off. Her armor is obviously quite good, and she does come with Oathkeeper, so if you want to get your hands on a Valyrian Steel Sword, getting her as your companion is one way to do it. Stat-wise, though, she is obviously quite good. Her highest combat skill is level 270, and that is her two-handed and one-handed skills, but again, her other combat skills are not far behind. We've got crossbow of 70, athletics of 220, which is great, throwing of 100, riding of 130, polearms of 260, and bow of 70. So across the board, very, very good at combat. As for her other skills, we've got a trade skill of 0, so that's not great, but we have a steward of 100, charm of 40, tactics of 50, and leadership of 100. So not too bad for the rest of her skills, but obviously the area where she shines, like all the people on this list, is at being a warrior. So that's Brienne of Tarth, and like I said, she takes the number 5 spot. At number 4, we have Sandor Clegane, otherwise known as the Hound. For his traits, we've got close-fisted, devious, daring, cruel, and impulsive. He is 35 years old and pretty solid armor and weapons off the start, so nothing bad about him. He comes equipped and ready to fight and looks quite good in my opinion. Stat-wise, also obviously excellent. His highest combat skill is 280, and that is in two-handed weaponry, so that's great. But under that, he's got 270 for one-handed, 260 for polearm, 220 for athletics, 120 for riding, 70 for bow, 70 for crossbow, and 70 for throwing. So there's no area of combat where he's bad, but he's really good with a two-handed weapon. Other stats outside of combat for him, we've got a trait of 30, steward of 40, charm of 30, tactics of 20, and a leadership of 100. So all very, very good, making Sandor Clegane an excellent option for a warrior-based companion in this mod. At number 3, we've got SYRIO FOREL, of course, and for traits on him, we have honest and fearless, so good traits there. He is 39 years old, so not very young, but obviously still spry enough to be a fantastic warrior. Pros about him, he does come with a pretty decent suit of armor and weapons, so again, don't have to worry about equipping him right away because he comes ready to fight. And again, his stats are just fantastic for a warrior. So his highest combat skill is level 290, and that's going to be in one-handed, but again, he's got a lot of other high stats, so we see 280 for two-handed, 200 for polearm, 100 for throwing, 220 for athletics, 100 for riding, so all very, very good combat stats. Outside of those, he's got 50 for trade, 120 for steward, 120 for charm, 60 for tactics, and 150 for leadership. So all very good stats, but obviously the combat stats are just phenomenal. So yes, that's SYRIO FOREL. He takes the number 3 spot. Then our runner-up at number 2, of course, it should be no surprise, we have JAIME Lannister. And of course, for his traits, we have generous, honorable, daring, and calculating. So it's clear that the mod author has something for JAIME Lannister because basically he's really good at everything. You can see he's 39 years old, and skills, you can see he's got a lot of them down there, and they're pretty dang good. So much like SYRIO FOREL, his highest combat skill is 290, and that again is going to be in one-handed weaponry, but again, his combat skills are not far behind. 280 in two-handed, 270 in polearm, 150 in bow, 150 in throwing, 250 in riding, 150 in crossbow, which is weird considering JAIME Lannister hates crossbows, and 200 in athletics. So an excellent warrior no matter what you want him to do. His other stats outside of that, we've got trait of 100, steward of 250, charm of 200, tactics of 250 and leadership of 250. So ridiculously good stats across the board, way overpowered, making Jaime Lannister one of the best companions overall in the game, but the second best as far as warriors are concerned. You can see he's equipped with pretty solid Lannister armor and the Jaime Lannister sword, so he comes well equipped as well. So that's number 2. Let's move on to number 1. Of course, at number 1 we have 1-1, the giant from the Free Folk, obviously being the absolute best of the companions. Now mind you, recruiting him is not cheap. I can't remember how much it was, but it was a lot when I did it to test all these. And so obviously he is fantastic because he's a giant. He is aged 40. His highest combat skill is 300, which comes from two-handed weaponry, which, you know, that makes perfect sense. Outside of that, though, his other combat skills are, again, not bad. 120 for bow, 280 for polearm, 80 for crossbow, 200 for throwing, and one-handed is 280, so obviously all of those are quite good. Outside of his combat skills, again, not as bad as you would think. Trait of 50, steward of 50, charm of 50, tactics of 50, and leadership of 100. So ridiculously good as a warrior companion, obviously because he's a giant, and the giants come equipped with armor that offers excellent protection, and he's got the Giant's Club, which is ridiculously overpowered. If you're going to do warriors, all of the people I listed today are great options, but obviously 1-1 is a class apart because he's a giant. So that is all for all 10 of our best warrior companions in the Realm of Thrones mod. You recruit them just like you would recruit companions in the base game. You go to your notes section by pressing N on your keyboard. You click on heroes, and then you can filter it however you want by gender, their status, their culture, but the important part is that down under occupation you click Wanderer, and that will allow you to go through all of the available Wanderers in the game, and that's how you find them. You click on one, it'll say where they were last seen, you travel to that place, and you keep doing that until you catch up with them, you talk to them, you hire them, boom, you've got them. So that is the 10 best warrior companions in Realm of Thrones. Hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful, but that's all for today. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.